My sister shamed my son at our family BBQ, then I exposed her dark secret. I'm sitting on the sagging couch in my Charleston apartment, the one with the coffee stain Miles made last summer, trying to piece together how it all went so wrong. My name's Ava Bennett. I'm 32, and I never thought I'd be the kind of person to air family drama for the world to hear. But last July at our family BBQ in Myrtle Beach, my sister Chloe Harper stood up in front of everyone and tore into my 7-year-old son Miles for being a kid. And my parents, Henry and Marilyn Walsh, just sat there, nodding like she was preaching gospel. I keep replaying it, wondering if I missed something, if I could have stopped it. If you've ever had to protect someone you love from your own family, maybe you'll get why I'm telling this story. Leave a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and let me know I'm not alone. Growing up in Savannah, Georgia, in a brick house with creaky floors and a backyard oak that dropped acorns all fall, I learned early I wasn't the favorite. My sister Chloe, 3 years older, was the star. Straight A's, prom queen, the kid who could charm anyone with a smile. She had this way of twirling her hair when she talked, like she knew everyone was listening. My dad, Henry, a retired engineer who kept his old drafting pencils in a tin on his desk, would light up when Chloe walked in, showing off her report cards or her latest cheerleading trophy. My mom, Marilyn, a homemaker who spent hours ironing tablecloths for church luncheons, would say, "Chloe's going places," with this proud little nod. Me, I was the one who asked too many questions, who spilled paint on the carpet, who never quite fit the mold. "Ava, why can't you be more like your sister?" Mom would sigh, her hands floured from making biscuits. I stopped trying to explain myself by the time I was 12. I wasn't bitter, not really. I loved Chloe, or at least I wanted to. She'd sneak me her old lip gloss or let me borrow her Walkman. But there was always this edge, like she knew she was better. Maybe she felt the pressure too. Dad's expectations, Mom's endless praise. I don't know. I just know I spent my childhood tiptoeing around their approval, hoping one day I'd get it. By 16, I was counting the days until I could leave, dreaming of a life where I wasn't the odd one out. Looking back, I wonder if I was too hard on them, if I made it worse by pulling away. But that's not the point. The point is, I thought I'd built something better for Miles, something safe. I was wrong. The drive to Myrtle Beach felt longer than it should have, even though it's only 2 hours from Charleston. Miles was in the back seat, his sneakers kicking the seat, humming some song from his Little League team's warm-up playlist. I kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror, his dark curls bouncing, and tried to convince myself this family BBQ wouldn't be a disaster. It was July 2025, and the South Carolina sun was relentless, turning my old Honda's AC into a losing battle. I'd packed extra sunscreen for Miles. He burns so easily, and his favorite baseball cap, the one with the frayed brim he refuses to replace. I don't know why I was so nervous. Maybe because family gatherings always feel like walking into a room where everyone's already decided who you are. We pulled into the oceanfront resort at Myrtle Beach, all sleek glass and palm trees, the kind of place that screams money. My Honda looked pathetic next to Chloe's shiny Audi, parked like it owned the lot. The resort's lawn stretched toward the beach, where waves crashed softly and seagulls circled above picnic tables draped in red and white checkered cloths. The air smelled of charcoal and salt, and I could hear my dad's voice booming over the chatter, probably telling some story about his engineering days. Miles unbuckled himself and bolted toward the lawn, yelling, "Can I play catch with my cousins?" I nodded, forcing a smile, but my stomach was already knotting. Inside the resort's open-air pavilion, my mom, Marilyn, was arranging platters of cornbread and coleslaw, her silver bracelet jangling as she moved. She'd always been particular about presentation, like the way she'd fold napkins into perfect triangles for Sunday dinners. "Ava, you made it," she said, her eyes flicking over my faded sundress before softening at Miles. "He's getting tall." My dad, Henry, stood by the grill, flipping burgers with a spatula he'd probably owned since the 90s. His gray hair was thinning, but he still had that commanding presence, like he was running a boardroom instead of a BBQ. "Chloe's been promoted again," he called out, not looking at me. "Big deal in Atlanta." Chloe swept in from the beach path, her designer sandals kicking up sand, her husband Travis trailing behind with a cooler. She wore a crisp white blouse, somehow untouched by the humidity, and her sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "Ava," she said, hugging me lightly, her perfume sharp and expensive. "You looked relaxed." I mumbled something polite, hating how small I felt next to her. Travis, a quiet guy who always seemed a little lost, offered a shy wave. He was an accountant like me, but Chloe never let him forget she was the real success. I wondered if she was happy, always chasing the next big thing, always needing to be the center. Maybe that's why she was so sharp sometimes, like she had to prove something. Miles was already tossing a baseball with his cousins, laughing, oblivious to the undercurrents. I noticed a security camera mounted on a pole near the pavilion, its red light blinking steadily. Probably there to catch drunk tourists, I thought, not family drama. I helped Mom set out paper plates, trying to shake the feeling that I was walking on eggshells. I'd told myself this was for Miles. He deserved to know his family, right? But standing there, watching Chloe laugh with Dad, I wasn't so sure. What if I'd brought him into something I couldn't control? The BBQ was in full swing, the kind of loud, sticky chaos you expect when cousins and potato salad are involved. Miles was over by the edge of the pavilion, his baseball cap tilted back, tossing a foam football with his cousins. The Myrtle Beach sun was dipping lower, painting the sky orange, and the air smelled of grilled meat and sunscreen. I was picking at a plate of coleslaw, half listening to Mom talk about her church book club, when I heard a crash. My heart sank before I even looked. Miles stood frozen, a plastic pitcher of lemonade tipped over at his feet, the sticky liquid pooling on the wooden deck and splattered across Chloe's white blouse. Her face twisted, and I knew this wasn't going to be brushed off. "You little brat!" Chloe snapped. Standing so fast her chair squeaked against the floor. She towered over Miles, her voice sharp enough to cut through the chatter. "Do you have any idea how to behave? Who raised you to be this careless?" Miles' eyes went wide, his lip trembling, and I was already moving toward him, my plate clattering onto the table. But Chloe wasn't done. "Kids like you need to learn some manners," she said, leaning closer, her manicured nails gripping the edge of the table. I saw Miles shrink, his shoulders hunching like he wanted to disappear. "Chloe, it was an accident," I said, my voice shakier than I wanted. I pulled Miles behind me, his small hand clutching mine. My dad, Henry, chuckled from the grill, wiping his hands on his apron. "Boy's a handful, Chloe's just calling it like it is." Mom nodded, her bracelet jingling as she folded a napkin. "Ava, you let him run too wild. Kids need structure." The cousins, sprawled on the grass, snickered, and one of them, a lanky 12-year-old, mimicked Miles' stunned expression. I felt my face burn, a mix of anger and shame. Why wasn't I better at this? Why couldn't I just shut them down? Later, as I helped clear plates, I overheard Chloe muttering to Travis by the cooler, her voice low but biting. "If that kid acts up again, he'll get more than a talking to." Travis just shrugged, sipping his beer, and I wondered if he ever stood up to her. Maybe Chloe was scared too, scared of losing control, of not being the perfect daughter. But that didn't excuse her. I kept Miles close the rest of the evening, his usual chatter gone quiet. He tugged at my sleeve as we walked to our room, the resort's carpeted hallway muffling our steps. "Mom, am I bad?" he asked, his voice so small it broke something in me. I knelt down, brushing his curls back. "No, baby, you're not bad. You're wonderful." But my words felt hollow, like I was failing him. That night, lying on the stiff resort mattress, I stared at the ceiling, the hum of the AC drowning out the ocean. I'd brought Miles here to feel like part of a family, but all I'd done was let him get hurt. I kept seeing Chloe's face, her anger so raw and Mom and Dad's casual dismissal. I should have said more, done more. I didn't know what to do next, but I knew we couldn't stay. The morning after the BBQ, I woke up in our resort room with a headache, the kind that feels like you've been clenching your jaw all night. Miles was still asleep, curled under the thin comforter, his baseball cap on the nightstand. The room was small, with beige walls and a framed print of a lighthouse that looked like it came from a thrift store. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the coffee maker in the corner, its red light blinking like it was judging me. I kept hearing Miles' voice. Am I bad? And Chloe's, sharp and cold, calling him a brat. I wanted to pack our bags and leave, but something kept me there, like I needed to prove I wasn't running away again. At breakfast, in the resort's dining hall, all polished wood and ceiling fans, a server named Carla, with a name tag pinned crookedly, mentioned the security cameras. "They catch everything," she said, refilling my coffee. "Had a guy last week try to steal a beach chair, all on tape." I froze, my mug halfway to my mouth. The camera by the pavilion, I'd seen it, hadn't I? I mumbled a thank you, my mind racing. Could it have recorded Chloe's outburst? I felt a flicker of hope, then guilt. Was I really thinking about using a video against my own sister? Back in the room, I called Jenna Price, my friend from my accounting job at Coastal Ledger in Charleston. Her tiny office, cluttered with sticky notes and a dying fern, felt like a safe place, even over the phone. "Ava, that's not just mean, it's cruel," she said when I told her about Chloe. "You need to see that footage." I paced the room, the carpet muffling my steps, and argued with myself. If I got the video, what then? Chloe wasn't just my sister. She was Dad's pride, Mom's golden girl. But then I saw Miles stir, his face still puffy from crying in his sleep, and I thought of his nightmares, Chloe's voice haunting him. I couldn't let that be his memory of family. I went to the resort's security office, a cramped room with a flickering fluorescent light, and requested the footage. The guard, an older man with a thick low-country accent, handed me a USB drive after a few clicks on his computer. At Jenna's insistence, we watched it on my laptop back home, in my apartment's cramped living room, the fan whirring in the background. There it was. Chloe's venom, Miles' fear, Dad's chuckle, Mom's nod. I felt sick, angry, and strangely powerful. I didn't know what I was doing. Not really. But I wrote an email to Chloe's marketing firm in Atlanta, where she bragged about her corner office, and to the PTA at her daughter's school. I kept it short, professional, asking them to keep Miles' name out of it. My hands shook as I hit send. What if this was a mistake? What if I was the one tearing us apart? The days after I sent the video felt like waiting for a storm to hit. I was back in my Charleston apartment, the living room cluttered with Miles' baseball gear and my unopened mail. I kept checking my phone, expecting something, anything. Then it came, Chloe's texts, one after another, lighting up my screen. "You're jealous, Ava. You've ruined my life." I stared at the words, my coffee going cold on the kitchen counter, a chipped mug from a thrift store. Part of me wanted to call her, to say I didn't mean for it to go this far, but then I remembered Miles waking up screaming, thinking Chloe was yelling at him again. I didn't reply. I couldn't. By Wednesday, Chloe's world started crumbling. Jenna called from her office at Coastal Ledger, her voice hushed like she was sharing a secret. "Heard from a friend in Atlanta. Chloe's been fired. Her firm said it was conduct unbecoming. PTA kicked her out too." I sat on my couch, the springs creaking, and felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Chloe's corner office, the one she'd posted about on Instagram with its view of the Atlanta skyline, was gone. The PTA, where she'd organized bake sales with that perfect smile, didn't want her either. I should have felt vindicated, but I just felt heavy, like I'd thrown a stone and broken something I couldn't fix. My parents didn't help. Dad called, his voice cold, the same tone he used when I dented his car as a teen. "You've betrayed us, Ava. Chloe was the successful one. Why couldn't you let it go?" Mom's texts were softer, pleading. "We're family. Come talk to us." I didn't know how to answer. Were they right? Had I gone too far? But then Aunt Patricia Hayes, who lived in a tidy bungalow in Savannah with wind chimes on her porch, called. "Chloe's been mean to plenty of us," she said quietly. "She mocked my daughter's art project last Christmas. I'm proud of you for standing up." Her words were a lifeline, but they didn't erase the doubt. Miles was struggling. His school counselor, a kind woman with a cluttered desk and a jar of peppermints, said he got nervous around loud voices now. I signed him up for therapy, feeling like a failure for not shielding him better. One night, as I tucked him into his bed with its mismatched superhero sheets, he whispered, "Is Aunt Chloe mad at me?" I hugged him, my throat tight, and lied that everything would be okay. Travis, Chloe's husband, texted me late one evening. "She's always had to be perfect," he wrote. "It's like she's scared of failing, but what she did to Miles wasn't right." I pictured Chloe in their sleek Atlanta condo, maybe staring at her awards on the wall, wondering how it all fell apart. I didn't want to feel sorry for her, but I did, just a little. Still, I had to protect Miles. I just wished I knew if I was doing it right. A month after the BBQ, my grandmother Evelyn Moore called us to her Charleston home, a 2-story Victorian with peeling paint and a porch swing that creaked in the breeze. I left Miles with Jenna, not wanting him near whatever this meeting would bring. Driving over, my hands gripped the steering wheel, my palms sweaty despite the AC in my Honda. I didn't know what to expect. Would they yell, beg, or pretend nothing happened? I kept thinking I should have stayed home, kept my distance, but Evelyn's voice on the phone had been firm, like when she'd scold me for sneaking cookies as a kid. The living room was crowded, the air thick with tension and the faint smell of Evelyn's lavender candles. Mom sat on the floral sofa, twisting her silver bracelet, her eyes darting like she was afraid to look at me. Dad stood by the fireplace, his old engineering manuals stacked on the mantel, his jaw tight. Chloe was in an armchair, her blouse wrinkled, her usual polish gone. Travis sat across from her, staring at his shoes, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Aunt Patricia and a few cousins filled the room, their usual chatter replaced by uneasy silence. I felt like an outsider, like I'd walked into a trial I hadn't prepared for. Evelyn, leaning on her cane, didn't waste time. She played the security footage on her ancient TV, the grainy image showing Chloe's outburst, Miles' fear, Dad's chuckle. "This isn't discipline," she said, her voice sharp despite her age. "It's cruelty." Chloe rolled her eyes. "It was just words, Grandma. Everyone's making it a mountain." I wanted to scream, but my voice came out small, shaky. "Those words made Miles think he's worthless, Chloe. He's 7. I hated how weak I sounded. Why couldn't I be stronger? Patricia spoke up, her hands fidgeting with a beaded keychain. "Chloe mocked my daughter's art project last year, said it looked childish. I should have said something then." Dad's face softened just for a second. "I pushed Chloe to succeed," he admitted, his voice low. "Maybe I left Ava out." Mom's eyes welled up. "I just wanted us to get along," she said, like that explained everything. "I wanted to believe them, but it felt too late." Chloe stood, her face red. "I'm not the villain here. I was stressed, okay? Work, the PTA. Everyone expects me to be perfect." Her voice cracked, and I saw a flicker of the sister who'd shared her Walkman with me, but it didn't change what she'd done. Evelyn cut through the noise. "This family's broken if we don't own up to our mistakes." Chloe stormed out, muttering about unfairness. Dad said he'd try family therapy, but I wasn't sure I trusted it. Driving home, I kept replaying Mom's tears, Chloe's crack in her armor. Had I pushed too hard? Was I breaking us apart for good? I didn't know, but I couldn't let Miles grow up thinking he deserved to be shamed. 6 months later, I'm sitting on a folding chair at a Charleston park, watching Miles swing a bat in his Little League uniform, the Navy jersey a size too big. The field smells of cut grass and dust, and parents cheer from the bleachers, their voices mixing with the clink of ice in sweet teacups. Miles grins, his curls peeking from his cap, and I feel lighter than I have in years. My apartment, with its scuffed floors and secondhand furniture, feels like home now, not just a place to survive. I got a promotion at Coastal Ledger, managing a small team, and the extra pay means no more asking Dad for help with car repairs. I keep waiting for that old panic to creep back, the fear I'm not enough. It's still there sometimes, but it's quieter now. Miles is doing better too. His therapist, a woman with a soft voice and a knack for origami, says he's healing. He doesn't flinch at loud voices anymore, and last week he sang a goofy camp song while washing dishes, suds on his nose. I cried in the bathroom afterward, not wanting him to see. I still feel guilty for taking him to that BBQ, for thinking family would be good for him, but Jenna keeps telling me I did the right thing, pulling him out, standing up. Her apartment, with its mismatched mugs and dog hair-covered couch, has become our safe haven, where Miles plays with her rescue pup. Dad and Mom are trying, sort of. We've had a few therapy sessions in a stuffy downtown office with faded curtains. Dad asked Miles about his batting average last week, his voice awkward but genuine. Mom stopped making snide comments about my parenting, though I catch her hesitating, like she's biting her tongue. Chloe texted once, apologizing in a stiff way, like she was checking a box. I replied politely, but kept my distance. I see her now, not just as the sister who hurt Miles, but as someone trapped by her own need to be perfect, always chasing Dad's approval. It doesn't excuse her, but it makes me sad for her, in a way I didn't expect. Last weekend, we had a small gathering at our apartment, just Jenna, Aunt Patricia, Miles' coach, and a few neighbors. The living room was cramped, the AC rattling, but it felt warm, real. Miles stood by the window, sunlight catching his face, and did a silly dance he'd learned at camp, arms flailing like a windmill. Everyone laughed, and I felt my chest loosen, like I could breathe again. He wasn't afraid to be himself. That's what I'd fought for. I don't know what's next, more therapy, maybe more fights with Mom and Dad. But for now, Miles is okay, and so am I. If you've ever had to stand up to family for someone you love, tell me about it in the comments. Your stories keep me going.